Welcome to Aquarian Anarchy, everyone. I am Chad. We're going to get to Marcus and hopefully our special guest here shortly. Nico's running a little late. But first, for our listening audience, we will read our quote. It's from Alexis de Tocqueville. Nothing is more wonderful than the art of being free, but nothing is harder to learn how to use than freedom. And if that has not been evident this last year, I don't know what is. Welcome, everyone. Like I said, to Aquarian Anarchy. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that bell icon so you can get the notifications. We are waiting on our very special guest, Caryn Ann Harlos. She is the secretary of the National Party, the Libertarian National Party, and she is going to be joining us. We have quite the show planned for you because there has been probably the most insanely active week of craziness around the LP with our guest right at the center of it. The funny thing about it is, Marcus, we did not plan this. We set this interview up like 2 months ago.
Right.
and back then it was just like we were looking, we were pulling guests in, trying to get folks in, and there she is in her beautiful. I was watching her put her wig on this earlier today on her stream. It was beautiful. Caryn Ann, we were just talking about how this was not the plan when we scheduled you 2 months ago.
No, it wasn't at all.
But here we are. And look, I wore this very special shirt.
Yeah, oh my God.
It's kind of like that, right?
And I'm so sorry for being late, but I ran out to get something to eat, and there are coal trains in Colorado, and I got stuck behind a 20-minute long right at the of the coal train.
Excuses.
So I might even be out of breath. I just ran in the door. I'm stuffing my face with a quarter pounder.
Very.
When we retell that, we'll tell everybody you were stuck on a train with Coltrane, and
yeah, as long as it's not Nickelback, I'm good.
That reminds me, there was this. So I don't know if you're familiar, the guy who did Mystery Science Theater 3000. He had this site. It's called Riff Tracks in like the late 90s, early 2000s, where he would go get it was like Roadhouse and like I can't remember the Britney Spears movie, but it was all these like bargain bin movies, and he did that. But he recorded it as an MP3, and so then he would tell you like, all right, at this part of the opening credits, hit play, and then that's when and it's all synced up. And one of the, I don't remember what movie it was, but there was this. A Creed song starts playing at the beginning of the movie, and then so he goes, oh, listen to this Nickelback song, and they're like, no, that's Creed. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, that's a Creed song. He's like, oh, I thought a Nickelback song was just a terrible song that you didn't want to listen to.
Yes,
that is funny.
It's pretty funny. Yeah. So anyway, let me set the stage, I guess. So, Nico's here. All right, we the band is all here.
Hello.
All right, we it took us a few minutes.
Maybe he was behind a coal train too.
Yeah, maybe so.
He was.
Nico, are you in Colorado too? No, Nico's in Chicago. So we got Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, and Louisiana down here. So Caryn Ann, I met you in New Orleans at the 2018 convention for the first time there, and that was quite the experience. But I just want to jump right in. I know everybody who's tuning in is interested to hear. I know you've been talking about it a lot this week. There's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. Oh my God, it's been terrible.
Yeah, we are dealing with something that, I mean, I don't know. I haven't been around. I just, full disclosure, like I joined the party like late 2017. I was an observer from outside for a while, but just joined then. But this reminds me an awful lot of, I caucused for Ron Paul in 2012 here in Louisiana, and we sent 74% of the delegates to the state convention in Shreveport that year as Ron Paul delegates. And an awfully similar thing. There was a little more physical violence used in Shreveport than there is in this case, but very similar type of situation that I'm seeing here, where the duly elected, members are just being summarily dismissed.
Yeah, I said that on Tom Wood's show that I see a direct parallel. Obviously, it doesn't walk on all fours, but a direct parallel as to what the Republican Party did to the Ron Paul revolution. And it's just pathetic. And to hear some of the party members last night in public comment say they don't care about the rules, they don't care what happens to these people, I was like vomiting in my mouth. I mean, that is just the most outrageous thing. If you don't care about listen, I very rarely say these things, but if you don't care about rights, you aren't a libertarian. Sorry, get the fuck, go on. I don't mean out of the party, because I don't ever throw anybody out of the party.
Right.
But I'm doing like the Italian, get out of here.
Yeah.
You know?
Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. But that's what I watched your stream earlier this afternoon. I've seen quite a few of them here recently, because I know now you have a lot more free time on your hands to where it's where you're able to do. You said something about like, I don't know if I'd be able to deal with this right now if I was employed, because I'd be super distracted with all this stuff going on. Try to hold it all together, and you have kind of been like the glue, I think, that's sort of holding the party together, because you are equal opportunity. You call out both sides of these discussions, and you're just, as it should be, trying to hold down what the truth is.
And most people don't know that nearly everyone on the LNC has a full-time job. So if you're wondering why some of the other members might seem a little scattered, and I kind of like went off a little bit today that I probably am going to have to apologize on the LNC list, because I got a bit frustrated actually with John Phillips, where it just seemed like he was flip-flopping, and I'm like, there's more flip-flopping on the LNC than a freaking beached mackerel. But I forget that I have a lot more time than most of them now, so that was probably an uncharitable comment. But there is still a lot of flip-flopping. But John probably didn't deserve that comment from me, and if he's listening to this, he'll hear me apologize. I'm very quick to apologize. Richard Longstress flip-flopping on the EC call. There's no fucking excuse for that.
That was like the direct 180.
Well, it was because he was mad at me, and it's great. Okay, because I tell you not to yell at me, then all of a sudden, you get all butthurt, and because John Phillips bitch slapped you over you running to the state for validation of our affiliate. There's no excuse for that. He gave a fantastic argument for his yes vote, and then he says debate changed his mind. Really? What in that 5 minutes of debate that was only about how we shouldn't be running to the state changed your fucking mind, Richard? Right. No, you care more about the approval of the chair, which you have since the beginning. I mean, let's face it, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. He's been sucking up to the chair the whole time. And he got mad at me because I dared to say, don't yell at me. So listen, him and I used to be, and this is really a used to be now, I'm sure, after all of this, good friends. He was a product of Colorado. We were like so proud of him. I don't know what happened. He used to be one of the most principled people that I know. But when I say that the LNC is where radicals go to die, he asked me once who I was talking about, and I said, you.
Yeah, and the thing is, what's funny is how I first was introduced, not directly. I think I met you first in, Texas, but when I was working for Adam. But the first place I saw you was at on the Radicals Facebook page, and I was like, "Who's this pink-haired chick? I gotta have to check her out." And so I did and found out what you're about. But you're right though. What I see, and there are some notable exceptions, including yourself, but it seems like you get brainwashed when you get on the LNC. And, I'm with Chad. I came to this party. I came to this party. I had given up on electoral politics entirely. And I came to the Libertarian Party because Adam asked me to. We had become friends, and
same here.
He convinced me, and so I got involved. And I'm like, "Oh, great! Let's get involved." And
then you realize that so many of them hate each other, and you're like, "Wait,
yeah, they hated me directly."
Wait, so the whole party that I'm not affiliated with, thank God, because y'all sound like
no, thank God. Come on, dude.
Look, here's the thing. I'm gonna have
to work on both of them, Caryn Ann, because Marcus.
Look. Thank you to my saving grace, my man's Chad. He, delivered me a few books, a little bit more on history and things of that nature.
You got the other one? You got the second one?
Yeah, I just got it today.
That's right,
so I'm going to delve deep into it. I'm not knocking the idea of joining a political party. But at this point in time, I'm not worried about any other politics than just like my community. Like, I'm not trying to, put a claim on my name, because it's just, there's no point. Like, I legit feel like as if there's no point in putting a claim on a name, because then your views have to align like this. It's like, as I'm hearing, a popularity contest. Like, people are flip-flopping and, trying to snuggle up on somebody. I'm all good on that fake stuff. Like,
yeah, but you want to know something? There's a nobility in fighting it. And that's kind of where I'm at, and I could see exactly where it happened. Like, for instance, with Richard, what happened is there was this time where we were trying to balance the budget, and a bunch of people wanted to work on balancing the budget. But JBH handpicked Richard and gave him this special attention. Then all of a sudden, they were the radical alliance that was being held up. Meanwhile, there were like 5-6 other people that wanted to work on it, and they were frozen out. And it was acted like it was just those two were the heroes. And then he really, really liked that attention, and the principles went downhill from then. And I hope he recovers them. He may never forgive me for speaking out against him, but I am always open to reconcile with anyone when they come back to principles. There's been more people, like some of the people that have been like the biggest with even funny way before I was a libertarian, when I was back in the theology. If you think libertarian debates are vicious, you ain't seen nothing till you see two Christians go at it. And there's a guy who you may even know. He's pretty well known amongst the anarchist community, Virgil Valdeva. He was a big time Christian. I was, and we were like this, and he'll laugh his ass off because he threatened to sue me because he trademarked a word. Okay. And I was like, yeah, and I'm going to sue you for sending me stupid emails. And we did this wiki flame war that is just so embarrassing looking back now. And we went our separate ways, and all of a sudden we met again in the anarchist community, and we're like best friends now, and we hated each other. And so I hope one day Richard and I will be great friends again, but you got to get back to principles.
Right. That sounds like you just said that Jesus made y'all hate each other and anarchists made you love each other. And
I think that could have been it, but it's just so funny how we came to the same conclusions. That's funny. Totally. Now, he's not a party person. He thinks I'm totally stupid for being involved in a party. He tolerates it, but, he understands why I do what I do. Different paths, but I'm totally open to reconcile with anyone, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to call out their shit now.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Sure. And a lot of this shit needs to be called out, and I have to say, I've got to put this out there. We have a Telegram chat, and when New Hampshire put out that tweet about child labor, my exact opinion was, oh, that's terrible messaging. That was my exact opinion about what they said, because it is terrible messaging. For me, and I said this to Chad before we came on, messaging is about telling the truth and in such a way that the masses can adopt it. And that's not
you and I are going to disagree here.
Okay.
We are. I don't think it was great messaging, but I don't think it was terrible messaging by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay.
I think their mistake was trying to do too much in a tweet.
In one tweet, yeah.
Because they brought in the idea of public schools being terrible and child labor. What they were really trying to say, and they said it very badly, is that public schools suck so bad that your kid would be better off working. And I actually think that's true.
That's a really good tweet right there.
Yes, but they didn't word it. The way
you said it is much better. Yeah, but the thing is,
that's my
wording
point.
Something inartfully or not with the best wording, where a copy editor would go in and be like, let's move this word here and let's replace this word with this. Yeah, well, right. But I'm saying something like that does not justify criminal theft of all of your resources.
Where I'm going to disagree with Marcus, I don't think libertarian messaging is to get the masses to adapt it. The masses are not going to adapt it. Revolutions aren't started by the masses. Revolutions are started by a committed minority. So that's where I disagreed. I think maybe I wasn't so clear on what I disagreed on. I do think it was worded badly, but I have zero problem. I guess what I'm saying is fundamentally, I don't have a problem with a tweet saying legalize child labor. I would have actually just taken the words of here I am saying I'm a writer, and there I am with sloppy English.
Hey, writing and speaking are two different things, Caryn Ann. Come on now.
I would have went to the 2002 platform, which was workshopped to death, taken that language and used that rather than trying to reinvent something off the cuff. Most people are not upset because it was written poorly. It could have been written like, Pulitzer Prize, and they still would have been upset because they're embarrassed by the libertarian principle behind it. And now people are all up on me because I've said, and I've clarified it enough times that people have no excuse to lie. I've said kind of tongue in cheek, you think New Hampshire was bad, and Colorado is saying, hold my beer. And then I went on and explained what I said, is that we are going to be tweeting out bold libertarian messaging. It's going to be written better, but the underlying principles might be legalized child labor. That wouldn't be the first thing I would do because I don't have kids, so it's not like top on my list. But you can bet your sweet ass that re-legalized recreational cocaine's at the top of the list.
Close the door, Wayne.
Yeah.
No, I'm just...
That wasn't on my end.
I know.
It's Wednesday. I forgot.
It was Nico's.
My bad. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, shit. I just had to steal Caryn Ann's catchphrase.
So, there's going to be some bold messaging coming out of Colorado that it's going to be worded much, much better. We won't try to do too much in one thing. And the people are going to hate us just as much, which is going to show that it's not about the wording. It's about they're embarrassed by radical libertarian messaging.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, this is what, and my wife and I were having this conversation earlier this evening in preparation for this. But Rothbard talked about very similar ideas. I think it was like 88 or 89 in the Libertarian Party Convention in Michigan, I think. I saw it on YouTube. And what he basically said is this is kind of the challenge of having a party, is that you're going to have people that are embedded that their number one priority is the survival of the party. And they sure on surface, they care about the principles, but they really care about the party. And he said that we have to fight that we have to push back against that, and which may cause a revolution once in a while. And I think that's possibly where what we're seeing starting to take place.
Because allegedly this is a similar thing happened in 80 with the whole crane thing. Even though I do the history stuff, I haven't delved too deeply into that. I've delved into it enough to know that there are a lot of parallels to what's going on right now. And those of you who watch my streams know well enough that I pretty much wear my Christian faith also on my sleeve. And I make biblical analogies a lot, but I think they apply whether you're religious or not. And what's going on with the party now with the messaging, where the people think, oh, we can save the party by watering down the messaging. I'll just quote what Jesus said about watering down the gospel. What profited a man if he wins the world but loses his soul?
Amen.
Well, and he also said, he said, if you're lukewarm, I'll spit you out of my mouth.
Right. Yeah. And there's so much of that because they had that temptation then. They were scared. They're scared for their lives. Or he said, you're the salt of the earth. But what happens if the salt loses its saltiness? It's only good to be thrown on the fire, trampled underfoot by men, and burned. That's exactly, and none of that. You don't have to believe in God to realize there's wisdom in that. I could just as easily pull out the Quran or any other religious text. That's why they've survived this long, because there's just homegrown wisdom in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I will say to the point of like what Marcus was saying about reaching the masses or anything like that, to the extent that you can, like some of what you're doing is just trying to break out of the noise, because there's so much noise that being too milquetoast and sounding just like the Democrats and Republicans, but just with like slightly different, a little nuance on the same thing that they're doing. Everybody just reads that as like, why would I care about the same arguments that we always get about like, why would I vote for your candidate? They can't win. And also they sound like they either sound like the Democrat or they sound like the Republican or some weird, disgusting combination of the two.
Some kind of
to those folks,
weird,
of
Franken thing.
See, this is what I was talking about. The party thing, like I'm good on that. They're too judgy. Yeah. Like I'm good on that, like fakeness. looks like even if I were, I mean, there's no like lost faith in.
You're breaking up, buddy.
Can you hear me?
I got him
good.
fine. That might be on your end, Marcus. No, you're good, Nico.
Okay, it might be me.
But to have like that, say like, I don't want to say labels, but it's a label. It's like a label. It's like at the end of the day, one party believes in one principle and another party believes in the other principles, but those principles all revolve around life, which there aren't that many principles to divide from and like alter from. So for all this like to be a headache and somebody feels some type of way about my lively principles because of my experience is just bullshit. Like you calling me out on certain things and me calling you out on certain things is just the way of life. And some people deserve to be in certain communities. That doesn't mean that they have to be labeled from that community. You feel me? It's just, I just feel as if like it's just a lot of I don't know, unnecessary stuff for a party.
Well, you know, and I'm sure you've thought of all this. You know, I'm not going to insult your intelligence to insinuate that you haven't. But David Nolan, when he put forth the case for the Libertarian Party, it's funny, doing like what most people today would consider actual politics was not one of the reasons he formed the party. He formed the party to capitalize on the statist system and kind of exploit it, because he knew you would get a lot of publicity simply by being a party. So it's kind of like, you set this up, like this is your part. Like when I say party now, like your rave, and we're going to crash it and drink all your beer. And that's kind of the way I view it. Electing candidates is great if you can do it, but don't sell your soul for it. A good friend of mine, who's one of the founders of the Radical Caucus, Mark Montoni, wrote an article that everyone needs to read that's entitled "Why Hold Back If You're Not Going to Win?" And in it, he's like, if you're going to pander, why would anyone go to you? Because there's two old parties that are much better at pandering than you are, and they're going to win. The thing is, our messaging isn't to the soccer moms in Peoria. Our messaging is to the people out there who are just dying to hear somebody say an actual libertarian thing and see themselves in it. They don't know yet what they are. I know when I read the platform, it was like the heavens opened and the angels sang. I felt these things, but I'd never seen it put into words before. You know, I've never met a libertarian.
They're looking for somebody who will, unlike the Republicans, say fuck you to the cop that kicked their friend in the head, and unlike the Democrats, also say fuck you to the IRS agent that stole the money to pay the cop.
For sure.
And respects them. Like I happen to think libertarianism is the only philosophy that actually respects the image of God in each and every man, because it allows you to live your life, I mean, fully as you see fit, as long as you're not harming anyone else. Everyone else says they believe that, but this is the only philosophy that does that doesn't feel some sense of entitlement to other people.
For sure. And you can see it. I mean, who believes that God's like, I'm going to give you free will so that you can pay attention to that asshole? You know, who really believes that? You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because I'm all about human dignity. And I think libertarianism is the only philosophy that actually honors human dignity. All the other ones view you as a pawn of another person or of a system.
And I think part of the problem, to get back a little bit to the messaging and those kinds of ideas, is one of the problems that I've seen, and I'm not the expert of everything, but I think that something that I personally see problem is people lose focus. You know, there's a reason why political, people suggest that you should, refine your message to 3 to 5 things and then have a pivot point. And what I would do, I believe in Adam's idea of localization. So what I would do is I would have like 3 to 5 bullet points that I stick to, in the wars, in the drug war, in the police state, those kinds of things. And then have something I can pivot from. And you can see where Ron Paul did that when he would say, I disagree with that, but, Constitution, da, 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 da. And I think Adam handles it better when somebody says, okay, some idea you didn't think about in your 5 bullet points, that somebody brings it up, you can pivot and go, okay, well, that should be handled in your local community. It shouldn't be handled in in DC. It shouldn't be handled in the Capitol, whatever, and pivot to localization as the way to move forward. And what I've seen more often so often that it makes me furious is they'll go off like, don't get me wrong, I think transgenders have rights. They have absolutely all that stuff. But we're talking about such a small percentage of the populace that yes, it matters. But do we need to talk about it for hours on end? Let's talk about the things that really matter to people and convince.
Okay. You and I are just going to disagree all over the place. Let me just ask you to consider this. I don't think any of us have the right to tell other people what should matter to them. And if somebody's main issue is transgender issues, that's just as valid. I think it's a sense of entitlement when we say, oh, no, this is more important than this is what you should be talking about. I'm not saying I even disagree with you on what you counted as your top ones, but I won't dare to tell somebody that transgender issues cannot be their top priority, that somehow makes them less than I am or like not as caring about the entire world issues. It's up to each individual to determine what their main issues are. None of us have any right to dictate that to them.
Absolutely. I agree with you completely. I was talking from my head.
I think what Marcus was saying was more like that if you don't say that stuff, then like people come and
they're trying to impose it on you.
They're imposing it on you.
If you're anti-trans, if you don't adopt that as your main issue. You don't make it your
number one thing if it's not in all of your messaging or something, or if you don't.
I agree.
It's like this. It's like the thing with like posting a black square on Instagram or whatever. It's like, look, what is the black square like gonna pay your bills? Like, I don't understand. Like, what there's
Chad,
there's some things.
I put the square there. I helped.
You did?
You can't. No, hell no. Hell no.
Sure as hell did.
I'm helping.
But that helps. Okay, it created awareness. Plenty of people saw that black square. They helped if you scroll through their feed.
Yeah, they thought there was a pixel out on their screen.
Yeah, but back to that thing about messaging though. Like so I see I have the Hotep Nation hat and the banner in the background. Our good friend Hotep Jesus, he says with his Twitter marketing book, he says write tweets that will punch people in the face. And to a certain extent, like that's kind of, I think, and so in that sense, I didn't have a problem with like some of the approaches that the now maybe from the official party account, maybe it's different when like I do it or when versus that and official positions and everything. But I do think that like sometimes this bold messaging needs to be coming from the party more officially, not mincing words and not trying to say like I saw what they did later on, which I thought was hilarious, where they're like, I think war is a no-no. Like it's just like these little like very, very milquetoast. Like, is this what you want? Is this better?
When people were demanding that, I live my life condemning bigotry. I don't need to swear your blood oath
every single time. Yeah,
right. So that's why I went on my page and said, I condemn stepping on Legos, and I think cancer is bad and puppies are cute.
Right.
I'm not going to swear your blood oath. I think that's a bigger problem. I posted, I think I condemn the forcing of people to swear blood oaths as irrational and repugnant.
Yeah, no, for sure. And
I'm not. You listen. Point to something in my life if you think I've done something that's bigoted, and we'll deal with that. But I'm not swearing your blood oath. It's remember the Kramer episode with the ribbon where he wouldn't wear he was walking in the AIDS march and he refused to wear the ribbon, and they tried to beat the shit out of him because he wouldn't wear the ribbon. He's like, I'm marching for your AIDS thing here.
Right.
But no, I don't want to wear your ribbon.
The ribbon is the whole thing. Yeah. It's and that's the thing. Like one of the points that you made this week is this majoring in the minors stuff. That there's so much of this. We haven't even talked about this yet this episode, but yes, let's talk about the fact that for 15 to 18 months now, the LP has been largely silent on one of the most massive takeovers of and transfers of like rights and resources to mega corporations through like locking down and especially small businesses where, like in my state, they were threatening to cut off people's water, cut off people's electricity. I think they were doing the same thing in New York and everything. Like this is the sort of thing that got, and we even had like, certain people who were in former high-ranking positions who were like just kind of like, it's we have other things to talk about.
Nick Sarwark,
wear your mask
Fuck
and
Nick Sarwark.
yes. Oh gosh, Marcus, you get Caryn Ann in trouble. And I'm done with the whole plausible deniability veil that some of these folks hide behind. Like
there is none.
It's infuriating to me. You can't hide behind this.
And the LNC is just way too eager. They think that's some kind of virtue. And it's like, no, come on. That's, it's one thing to give somebody plausible deniability when it's someone who's not right in front of you and you're like judging them from a distance and you have a very limited data set. But when it's the fucking chair who could deny all the shit right then, he's right here. No, you don't deserve plausible deniability. You need actual denial.
Right. Exactly.
Oh my God. These people, it's like, did somebody suck your brains out? I feel like saying, I am so sorry for this injury you suffered as an infant. Obviously someone touched you in your soft spot.
Right. put the finger clean in there.
Up here, right?
There's a gunk.
That's a fun.
Yeah.
It's different. I understand when it's somebody you can't question.
Yeah,
you do need to be, but listen, the chair could have said,
yeah, you don't want to.
Shaletta took that letter one way. I didn't mean it. He's yet to say that.
Not only that, but to me, what I have witnessed is that we have gone from this is the affiliate now
to we need to investigate,
to we're not sure and we need to investigate, to now that this is in fact the affiliate, and so we will disaffiliate them. Like this is three completely different universes to live in all at the same time, that they are not the
and he
affiliate.
Won't give reasons for his disaffiliation motion. And listen,
right, not anything specific.
Ridiculous. And so I talked to the New Hampshire affiliate because I'm like, listen, the quickest way probably, because I don't know what game he's playing. This chair has never made a motion he knows he's going to lose. He knows he's going to lose this. So there's something else going on. And if people aren't stepping back and going, what trap am I walking into?
Yeah, right.
And again, sorry for that injury, because there's something going on. So I said to the New Hampshire affiliate, there's a game. I don't like playing games blind, but it seems like the fastest way to get your data back is for this motion to fail. But I think there's something else going on here. But I don't get to play with your lives. I want to force the chair to give reasons, but I won't do that at your expense. Do I have your blessing to delay this? Yeah. And they gave me their blessing. But so far, no other LNC members have the kahunas to sponsor my appeal from the ruling of the chair and force him to give reasons.
How many do you have? You need 4, right?
Right, and I've got 2. Me and Joshua.
You and Josh, yeah.
There's other people who should. Now, maybe they haven't seen it yet. I'll be making some. I'm not the type to like round up votes. I know that's politics as usual, but to me, I'm kind of like of the idealist set that if your cause is just, people should just come to it. But maybe, that's my stupidity. But I probably will get on the phone to try to get at least 2 more. And here's the thing. When you sponsor something, you're not saying you agree with it. It's like a second of emotion. You're just saying it deserves to be heard. I cannot believe that even that no one else thinks this deserves to be heard. Fangu.
I mean, come on. You're talking about the reasons.
Yeah. If we move to censure the chair, I wouldn't be satisfied with we just censor the chair. The chair deserves to know specific reasons for censoring him. It's the same standard here. So, what disrespect. They could go talk to the affiliate themselves to see I'm not lying. They want to know the reasons. Every single other 16, well, I'm bad at math. How many people? There's 17 people on the LNC. The other 15 people, other than me and Joshua, are like, you don't deserve to know the reasons you're being publicly dragged through the mud in front of the whole party. Fuck you.
Yeah, well, and that language is so vague. But what's interesting about that is that while that violation of the statement of principle, or what is it? Is it a violation of the SOP?
Statement of principles. Yeah, that's what he's claiming.
So violation of the SOP. But what's happened to the New Hampshire affiliate is not a violation of the SOP.
Right. But they deserve to know the
physical
reasons.
resources and electronic resources and access and all this stuff, and then just completely being effectively, disaffiliated by
it's
by
constructive.
fiat.
It's constructive disaffiliation, which is very similar to something that happened in Oregon, but it's different in that there weren't two brand new parties with two different bylaws. These people have the bylaws that were because the bylaws were amended at convention, meaning they were re-ratified at convention. That makes it even worse. This is just absolutely
they weren't in dispute or anything
insane.
Like that. Yeah.
And to speak to the other side, to the people who think New Hampshire should be disaffiliated, they also deserve to have a very clear charge so that they can appeal it to the Judicial Committee. Right now, everybody's rights are being fucked over. And the other 15 members of the LNC who won't co-sponsor my appeal, well, I should only say 14 because the chair obviously isn't going to co-sponsor it. That would just be completely crazy because it's a challenge to him.
Right.
And maybe it's 8 million dimensional chess. Who knows?
There's something else going on, though. He has never, ever made a motion that he knows he's going to lose. So I don't like walking into a trap. I'm not devious enough to figure out what the end game is here because I don't play the Game of Thrones. And, that's obviously what's going on here. So I'm very cautious because I want to know what it is that I'm walking into.
Yeah. Sure. Well, and I know that there's not always been like a whole like conglomerate of people who are like definitely like behind Michael Heiss, where it's like this, where he's got all this support. But there are a lot of people who are like, hey, look, like we haven't always seen eye to eye, but I can't like I'm not gonna argue against what he's standing for and everything right now. But I think I almost feel like there's this it's a very transparent to me attack on that whole movement that is growing, that is just for, it seems like spite. And I appreciated your split baby reference earlier today, where it's almost like there's some people who, to that point about, what Marcus was saying earlier about holding the party back or, protecting the party at the expense of principle. I think in the other way, there's some people who are willing to
destroy the party
over their own personal preferences.
So all this bullshit talk about wanting to grow the party and not be a social club, we all see it's false. And I love what Dave Smith said. For all the people who are whining and yelling about, the takeover. The fact is the moderates took over this party a long time ago. In 2006, when they raped the platform with a convention, which total attendance was less than quorum at a normal thing, where some of the votes were less than 1%. I found errors in the votes when I went back and audited it. So as far as I'm concerned, that convention was completely illegitimate, but there's nothing I can do about it now, 10 plus years down the road. Right. So come on now. You took over, but what you're doing is you're pulling the ladder up after you. You made it, and now you're like, nope, not you guys. No, it doesn't work that way. Not today, Satan. That ain't flying.
And the thing is, the first experience I had with what they tried to do, what they did do in Pennsylvania with basically doing that successfully. I experienced them trying to pull the rug underneath because they saw here in Indiana a surge, because I'm an activist and I was out fucking trying to get people to vote for Adam, doing all kinds of shit. And so they saw that coming, and they do the vote where, you're going to get taken over and we're going to vote to seat everybody and da. And I watched that for the first time in Indiana, people stand up, so that my wife, myself, and every other Kokesh supporter we brought to the convention they lost. But for the first time, people stood up and voted to not include us, including people from my own county who were trying to oppose me being able to be a delegate from Indiana. I never did wind up being a delegate from Indiana in that that was in 2018. I didn't wind up being a delegate. I wound up being a delegate from Washington State, but they attempted to not even have a set at the Indiana convention. So I watched them pull the ladder up myself. I've seen it happen. And it just boggles my mind that this is happening in a libertarian convention.
It's I don't know what I think eventually New Hampshire is going to be restored, but I don't think the LNC is going to clean house, and it's just going to have to wait until Reno. I hope I'm pleasantly surprised. I know Joshua Smith has put forth a motion to censure, but it's deficient in the same way that the chair's motion against New Hampshire is deficient. So I'll work with him on laying out specific charges, because the chair deserves to know the charges against him. Mm-hmm. And it needs to end with the LNC resolving to ask him to resign, because we don't have the 3/4 vote to remove him. There is not the political will. And that's not even a moderate thing. The governing bodies are just that way. They never remove their own, ever. This isn't a libertarian thing. This is a human nature thing. So he needs to do the right thing and resign. Do I think he will? No. Mm-hmm. He would have done it already, because he fucked up so bad that he has no leadership. Even if he doesn't think he did anything wrong, the way he handled it was so bungled that he hurt the party so bad that a noble man would have resigned.
I'm sorry to ask this, but I have to.
Uh-oh.
How much of that do you think is intentional?
What part of it? Like
the bungling and the bad press and the bad, because the way I see it, one of the things that he has.
Oh no, the bungling was me giving him the credit. No, I think he's intentionally not answering the questions, because the answer is damning.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I don't think it's incompetence. I think there's a definite malfeasance. Yeah. And that's what I would put in the motion to censure. But if you wanted to be the most, I'm seeing it from an inside. An outsider might not. Like I'd said back when I was saying that Nick Sarwark was corrupt. I was seeing things that other people weren't, because I was on the inside, and I could understand how other people just thought it was very, very bad judgment. And I get that, because on the inside, I'm seeing a lot more, and some things that I can't reveal because of some. I am very much like a whistleblower, but there are other things in which there are other people implicated that I don't have the right to out. It's not my story to tell. So there are things I do hold in confidence that help inform my opinion, that might give me a stronger opinion than an outsider might have.
Nico, you were going to say?
Oh no, I was gonna say this shit sound rigged like all the other fucking parties. Like this shit still sounds bad.
But how often do you see one of the national officers going around screaming about it? You don't see that. Right. They walk in lockstep. So you might say, yeah, you're just as bad, but you won't get the national secretary from the DNC or the RNC doing what I'm doing.
Right. Not only that, but if there's anything, it'll be like some sort of fake media witch hunt that
all of a sudden they would know something about Hillary.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Get the toe tag.
Yeah.
I know nothing about Hillary.
Right. Me either.
Suicide with 2 shots to the back of the head. Yeah.
It's like, look, I don't know nothing about politics, so Hillary don't know me.
Hey man, you got that Chicago connection. Who knows?
We may have our issues, but come on. I mean, it was somebody said in chat the one thing you could say you got going for him is what the foul-mouthed, pink-haired national secretary showing off her tits. Like, that doesn't happen with the RNC and the DNC. So, okay. I mean,
and this is why we love you.
There's still we still allow, at least up to a point, whistleblowers, but I can tell you I do expect some kind of disciplinary action to be directed at me fairly soon, and I don't care. I'll wear it as a badge of honor.
So let's talk about that, because when it comes to disciplinary action, I mean, so we're all.
I'll be like, spank me, daddy.
Let me call me bad names.
Okay, listen. I'm trying to keep this.
Spank me and pull my hair.
Oh my God! It's not even your hair. Come on, Caryn.
I know.
I saw you put that hair on today.
Be like wig snatch.
Why you expose her like that, Chad?
Right,
Don't
right.
expose them like that.
I gotta
man.
go back to Boys in the Hood. It's like,
Dirty.
so I grabbed the stupid bitch by a nappy ass weave.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Be like, oh.
No,
No, I'm gonna tell you. No, listen, I'm gonna tell you. I had this girlfriend at work a long time ago. This black girl was such a good friend, and this guy, like just this total white bread guy, was so confused because she came to work one day with a really nice weave, like long hair, and he's like, "Is that hair? Is that yours?" She's like, "I paid for it. It's mine."
For sure.
Yeah, I got a cousin who does extensions and stuff like that in East Texas. But no, so where was I going? About disciplinary action. All right, so I think I heard you say something to this effect. I think we're kind of all on the same page where if we're not completely full on anarchists, we're at least borderline anarchists.
No, I'm full on anarchist. I don't
Okay,
care
that's
what
my
anybody
girl.
says.
That's what I thought, but I was just, I wasn't going to
Look,
speak
come
for
on.
you. I wasn't going to
so
speak
I
for
gave
you.
you an excuse where you could look at my tits, but pretend like you're looking at my necklace.
Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Well, you're in like a tiny little rectangle over here, so I couldn't see that far. But no, so not a big fan of the state, obviously, but the state exists. And with the state and in each of the 50 individual states within the union, we have to do our things as the LP to abide by, Secretary of State and all this stuff. There's a lot of this stuff that I don't know, like when you get to this level where access to these resources and then like the storage, if that story is true about the storage being wiped clean, everything, like there are actual like criminal behaviors going on. When we're talking about disciplinary action, you're just talking, and we have people who are actually actively stealing and disenfranchising people.
Oh yeah, I want to see that video of them cleaning out, but I don't know if that can be given to me, like if there's any implications or whatever.
Right, exactly.
But I would love to see it. And no, I don't have a problem with them going to the police because the state has usurped our own self-defense rights. So you have to go to the monopoly.
Right.
That's like saying, as I tell people who have the really like just stupid reductionist view of anarchy, meaning that, oh, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. It's like, it's not a suicide pact, dude. It's like we have to live in the real world we're in, even though we would prefer not to. And if you can't go and like hire a defense firm to go take your shit back, you're going to have to use with the state the best of a bad option. Otherwise, we might as just all go on the top of the Rockies and shoot ourselves in the head. Anarchy is not a suicide pact.
Right. No, sure. And you're absolutely right. We've talked multiple times on this show that, we last week we were talking with a friend of ours, Yancey Hotep, who's set up his own community and he's used the state to get things and to give himself more wealth here and there.
Yeah.
And by all means, take from the state.
They steal it from you. Might as well get some back. Like I said last week, I was like, if a mugger comes and mugs you, and then you chase him down and get your wallet back, that doesn't mean you endorse mugging or that you stole it from him. It's just reclaiming your own property back.
That's what I think so crazy about people who conflate a tax break with a subsidy.
Right.
Like you're mad. You're like all up in your feels because somebody gets a tax break. Are you all up in your feels about all the women who don't get raped because a couple do? Like, come on. It's like good for you. I'm jealous. We should all get like this tax break. Now, subsidy's different.
Right.
So,
because that money's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, but everyone's all like, oh, you got to tax the churches. No, you got to stop taxing everybody else.
Right.
You're going in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
go
like
ahead,
my argument for reparations, which granted I've stolen from several people, but let's be clear,
no such thing as IP.
Right? Yeah, and we want to get to that, by the way.
Yeah,
definitely.
That was actually the original thing we were going to talk to you about before the shit show happened.
Yeah,
and this last week has reconfigured our agenda.
Boy, I get libertarians all riled up with the IP thing, and it shouldn't be that controversial.
No,
I
it's
agree.
not. we actually were gonna be high-fiving each other. Go ahead, Nico.
Yeah.
What?
Can we discuss what the hell IP is for the ignorant ones that don't know what IP
We
is?
will in a moment. Let me make
In a
my
moment,
point.
let Marcus finish his point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my argument for reparations for people of African descent is we give them 10 years and all. If you can prove in any way, I don't care about proving, you prove in any way that you have African descent, you have a free reign on all taxes, both state and federal, for 10 years. And then, of course, we got to put women in there too, because, they've also been victims of the state. So we'll
And
throw women in
gingers.
there. Right, and different,
gingers.
gingers, and then we got to throw.
We've got your reparations coming.
Right, for sure, they're on their way.
Yeah, Marcus just like walks this thing in. It's like 10 years, then 7 years.
The
then
gingers have to give back all the souls they ate.
Right, for sure. But at the end of the day, if we manage to get reparations through tax breaks to Black people for 10 years, they are never going to pay taxes again. Because try being that politician.
To make them pay it.
To turn that faucet back on. Yeah.
Right. So that's my argument for reparations is give them a tax break, all taxes for 10 years, because that will become permanent. And if you can build that in to other people, then you have the same thing. But Nico, to your point, IP is an intellectual property, and some people believe in intellectual property. I do not. But because I think the best description, and I don't remember who this was, but the best description for me with intellectual property is it's not going to, if somebody creates something, whatever that is, it's not like you're going to take the initial thing away for you to have intellectual property. But Caryn Ann, you can probably do a better job than I can.
Well, no, I think you described it well. Is people, they think because it's called property, all of a sudden it's property, but that doesn't work any better than it does when you call healthcare a right. It doesn't make it a right just because you called it a right. You have to understand what actual libertarian law is about, or libertarian property theory is about. The just allocation of rivalrous and scarce resources, and ideas are not any of those things. You are not deprived of using your own idea if I also use your idea. You don't have a right to profit. That's not a right that you have. That goes into the whole labor theory of value and things like that. It's very much at heart a communist idea. The ideas are not scarce. And they're not rivalrous. What people think rivalrous means is that you can argue about it. No, what rivalrous means is that two people can't use it at the same time. Right. Exactly. And that's, people need to like open a dictionary every once in a while before like thinking they know what a word means. And sometimes I could be the worst with that. So, but it's neither of those things. So there, you can't have an exclusive right in something that doesn't require an exclusive right in order for it to be used justly. So if anybody just boil it, they need to take their feels out of it. A lot of people who argue about this are arguing from a position because it will harm them personally if they have to give up this idea. They might be musicians, they might be authors, they might be in some way that they are benefiting from this. But you want to know what? The people in the South who owned slaves had a lot to lose too, but that didn't make slavery right. And before all the super, and I'm autistic, so I can say this, the super autistic people start ringing, no, I am not comparing intellectual property to slavery. I am making an analogy about just because you profit from a wrong doesn't make it a right. Okay? Calm your little autistic selves down. Because, boy, people don't understand analogies today. And again, I can get away with it because I am actually autistic.
Well, I don't know if I can get away with it or not, but my wife might think that I can because it's Father's Day this weekend, and she has already ordered me a medical alert bracelet as like a joke to make fun of me because she says that. Anyway, it's so I have. I don't know. I'm thinking I'm embracing the idea, but I wanted to say I believe in intellectual property. But here's my stipulation. The only intellectual property, stop, Nico. The only intellectual property is the intellect itself. I think that if you think of Bob Marley, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, whatever, it's not that they wrote a song and that no one can make that song. It's that there are some of these, like I look at the Jimi Hendrix version of All Along the Watchtower is way better than the Bob Dylan version.
Right.
And so why would you deprive me of that? Number one. And secondly, like Bob Dylan wrote a lot of really good songs. I'm not a big fan of like how he performed them all. But there's something where like when someone's continually producing what would be described as intellectual property, it's their ability to continue to do that makes what they're producing valuable and makes them worth supporting. We do this channel, we give this thing out for free on YouTube and on Libre TV. We have people who come to our Patreon and they support us. By the way, go to our Patreon and give us some more money.
And super chats.
Right, exactly. Well, we're not there yet. We haven't gotten to the level of monetization yet.
Oh,
Caryn Ann.
God. It took
We're
me
working on
2 years.
Yeah.
It is
we're
rough.
about a year
I just got there.
Yeah. Well, you're blowing up now. So it's coming at a good time.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Right. Mama needs the money.
yeah, that's right. But
float
like,
Caryn Ann some money.
Right. But first give us money, damn it. No. But you understand what I'm saying? Like if you are continually producing, then people find a way to value that and to support it financially. If you're a hack who just copies other people's stuff, but you're not really a talented musician, either on the one hand, if your stuff is that easily reproducible, it's probably not all that terribly scarce or valuable anyway. And if it is, then you shouldn't be worried about some hack trying to copy your style or your swag or anything like that. When you see someone who's clearly just like trying to rip somebody off, that shit kind of settles itself out. And I don't think that the patenting or this locking down this stuff and limiting ideas. If you look at like the way that so much of technology has been limited over the years by the fact that people invent something and they lock it in and make it to where little improvements on that are very, very difficult to pull off unless you're them, then you've effectively limited the scope of where that technology can take us.
Sure.
And here's what's funny. I used to be a huge defender of IP.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny the way things go. Back not that long ago, I used to be a reporter for a website called World of Apple. I'm a huge Apple fangirl. And I don't know if you remember when SciStar was doing the Hackintoshes. And I was covering that story. And boy, did I just ream. I was licking Apple's ass so hard. It wasn't even funny. But so we all can change our minds. So
sure.
Yeah, but libertarians defending IP is just so strange to me. I think it's an emotional attachment. And the thing is, a lot of people will point to things which really aren't about IP or copyright or even patent or trademark, but about fraud. And we already have laws against fraud.
Right.
You don't need another one to do it. If you're buying something because you think it's from X person and the seller lies, it's not really from X, it's from an impersonator. That's nothing to do with copyright or anything. It's fraud.
Right. That's fraud. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the market decides this shit anyway. I mean, one of the things that because black markets are a thing and people are going to do what they're going to do, whether government tells you can do it or not. It is what it is. And it brought to my mind is the Grateful Dead and Fish. In essence, Grateful Dead and Fish were very similar ideas. They traveled around, got really fucked up, and played music for a lot of really fucked up people. The Grateful Dead was absolutely the best at doing that. Fish sucked at it. And they tried really, really hard. And the market decided and said, you know what, Fish, you're not going to be able to do this forever. And the Grateful Dead, if Jerry Garcia was still alive, would still be doing what they did. Yeah. So, the market will decide these things. And, a lot of people like to call me an anarcho-capitalist, and I don't like that title. But this is the capitalist in me
I'll
coming
take
out. I don't like it, and there's reasons for that. But But anyhow, I prefer just to be a regular old anarchist. That way I get Emma Goldman and I get all kinds of other people too. but
Shout out to
the
Michael Malice
capitalist,
for the
right, for sure.
Anarchist Handbook.
But for me, the capitalist in me just really believes that the market sorts this shit out, and to deny that intellectual property is stupid when in every, does anybody remember BitTorrent or Napster or any of the 10 million different ways that this was gone around and has gone around on a daily basis? It is not a manageable law, so therefore it cannot be a just law.
Well, I don't know if y'all remember, but Radiohead put out an album, In Rainbows, back in, was it like late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in that range. And they ended up, it was like free to the public. And it was just like, donate money if you want to donate money. And I think they made like over $10 million worth of donations for that album. So, I mean, there are models out there that like, it doesn't have to be that way. And most of the time, the people who are enforcing intellectual property and who have like kind of brought about this brainwashing that leads people who are the victims of intellectual property law to actually defend intellectual property law are actually people who are like really, really corrupt and run like record labels and all this other stuff. And they're stealing other people's intellectual, their talent. They're basically taking their talent and saying, okay, you are worth 5% of what you produce and I'm worth the other 95%. And anybody who tries to stop us from doing that, like you saw what happened with Prince, where he had to change his name to symbol, all this kind of stuff, because that was a way to get around intellectual property law, because they
and
owned
Tina
him.
Turner was going through that.
There's all sorts of examples of that.
Your masters, basically.
For sure. Sure.
Well, they owned his if he made music, they owned it. If he said he was Prince.
Right.
And
so that's
Ike
why
was
he
doing
changed
that
his name
to Tina Turner to try.
Right, exactly.
So my understanding is, did you guys in Colorado pass an intellectual property platform? Could you elaborate on that?
It's anti, we called it an intellectual monopoly, because I actually think that's a better terminology. So it's not as strong as I would like, but we're the first state to even touch the issue.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think that is important as we look at the bullshit going on right now and the drama going on is these are baby steps. We are taking one step at a time, and we can apply what you just said to what we're looking at. Of course they're fighting us. Of course they are. Of course they're fighting real libertarians trying to take back the Libertarian Party. And I'm not just talking about the Mises Caucus. I've never been affiliated with the
I'm
Mises
not
Caucus.
affiliated with them, and I'm not a Ron Paul revolution person.
I was, but
and there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying it's different. My inspiration, because I wasn't even aware of Ron Paul when that whole thing was going on. And what brought me into love with the philosophy was the early party stuff. So that's what motivates me. And that's why I got into the history. Now I can certainly appreciate Ron Paul, but I don't have the soft spot in my heart that others do, because he just didn't play that influential of a role. I have a much softer spot for Rothbard. Who I never knew, but still was a much more influence on me than Ron Paul had been. But I get it. But yeah, it is to, in the words, it's funny, everyone's getting so butthurt about the radical, not the Mises, but the Radical Caucus has always said their mission is to re-radicalize the Libertarian Party. Maybe that's worded a little nicer. It doesn't bring in the idea of hostile takeover, but it still is fundamentally saying we want to change the party back to its original mission. And the moderates crying about it, cry me a fucking river, because you did that in 2006. And I don't think you did it entirely honestly.
Well, and let's be clear, when it comes to the moderates, one of the things I've noticed is,
notice I don't say prags there, because there are radical prags.
Yeah, for sure. But one of the things that these moderates, because you're right, that is a better term. the moderates talk about is that we've got to appeal to the Republicans and Democrats, and to a degree, I agree with them. I bring them all, bring everybody, get everybody to learn about liberty. I'm all about it. So to a degree, I agree with that. But then the first thing they do when we start attracting people, like Hotep Jesus is a perfect example, who's coming from the right, if you will, who has become an anarchist largely because of Chad, I will snag onto that too because I helped. I introduced him to Spooner.
Definitely. He shouted you out too. Yeah,
sure. I introduced him to Spooner, but it was long after he introduced him to Rothbard. But as soon as people start coming from, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about the left or the right, then they start getting shitty with them. They start attacking them and trying to get them pushed out. I don't think it doesn't matter.
Today, it's only attacking people who are coming from the right. I'm sorry. It's very blatant. In 2008, the party was at the opposite swing, and it was attacking people coming from the left. We keep swinging back and forth when we should just be fucking libertarian. But right now, no. If we got somebody who was coming from the left, they would not get nearly the hate.
You're probably right.
Not at all. I'm not going to pretend like it's equal because it's not.
Yeah, and that's what I was actually going there, and then I like lost my train of thought when I was talking about Michael Heiss and how like there is a big don't take what I said earlier the wrong way. There is a big movement, that he is helping to lead with this with the growth of the party. They're doing a lot of outreach. They're bringing a lot of people in. But what I was getting at was the messaging that I've heard him say is like, look, these are people who are napalming children who we're fighting against. We need to stop fighting against each other because we are not each other's enemies. And we fight over the stupidest shit. We fight over these little tiffs over whether somebody's and there are people who try to call everybody who doesn't agree with them a white supremacist or a Nazi or whatever, all this other bullshit. And it's like, there are like actual legitimate like murderers and thieves and scoundrels out there who are stealing, killing, and like threatening to put us in cages for shit. And they did a whole bunch of shit this whole last 18 months to like ruin people's lives and force people into isolation when there are a lot of people who are already dealing with some serious mental health issues. And now they've been, we have one of our friends, I won't mention his name, but he's someone really close to him. Their 12-year-old son committed suicide.
Yeah.
This year, 12 years old, because he felt like he was like isolated from his friends, didn't know if he was ever going to see him again, and just couldn't take it anymore. And that sort of stuff is what the state is doing to people. Well, and we're fighting over messaging.
The National Party has spent more time on a tweet about child labor than they have on the most massive violation of our civil liberties in our lifetimes. Absolutely. And for that reason alone, the chair ought to go.
Yeah, and this isn't new. I remember screaming at the LP national Twitter page because they wouldn't even cover the fucking candidates. They wouldn't talk about anything libertarian. They were constantly talking about Trump or Biden or one of that.
Black Lives Matter. It was all identity politics, and And I'm happy that Amash came over, but they were brutality thing is fucking huge. Right. But they needed to condemn the riots because that wasn't right. You can support. No group is perfect. There are angels and devils in every single movement, and there was definitely just cause for outrage. And we could have focused on that and condemned the bad there because burning down people's shit, that ain't the way to get attention. But to focus that, in fact. And I know a lot of people are going to dispute statistics, and I'm just like, get the fuck out of here. The fact is, I'm not trying to speak for Black people, so no offense here, jump in on me if you disagree with me. But I know from my Black friends that they have a real fear. And whether that fear is justified or not, to me, is kind of irrelevant. It's a shame that there is that fear. And even if it's not justified, let's deal with why they feel they need to have that fear. I'm not scared when I get pulled over by a cop, but my Black friends are.
Yeah.
Nico,
For
I
sure.
can't unmute you.
And has nothing to do with male or female. My female black
I
friends
said
are.
that I'm scared shitless sometimes.
I would be
Yeah,
if I were you.
Look,
Nico was supposed to come down last year to my 4th of July party.
but there was a lot of stuff going on.
There was a whole bunch of shit going on, and he was like, I don't feel comfortable driving down south, by myself from Illinois to Louisiana.
Yeah.
And this was when BLM like really popped off with them riots, I think. And like
But
I was
you
like,
get assholes like Ben Shapiro, like, oh, well, the statistics don't. I don't give a shit. Let's deal with the reasons why people are feeling this way.
Right.
Because it's just too widespread for it to be nothing.
Has nobody ever heard of the book about how to lie about statistics? Because
but
it's out there.
It just angers me. It angers me so much.
Going back to your point of like, people are just overly emotional now in this age. Like you can't get anything by, and like they're triggered by it. They emotionally feel something about it. Because if you're not feeling something these days, then you're most definitely, I guess, stone cold. And that's not working in this world. Like you can't be a man because being too masculine is incorrect nowadays, and especially a black man. Let me tell you, I'm getting shot at every angle, so it's not fun.
Listen, there's a YouTuber I want to know your opinion of. If you've seen him, his name is Ruined Leon.
I think I've heard of it.
He's a black guy that I am in love with. I'm telling you, he calls himself the sexiest black man on YouTube. So he's the sexiest black man on YouTube. But oh my goodness, like, because no offense if anyone here likes her, I don't like Candace Owens. I just think she's a bitch.
Nope.
But this guy, oh my God, you got to watch him. He's fantastic.
What's his name?
Ruined Leon.
Say less.
He is hilarious. God, I adore that man.
Nice. Yeah, at the end of the day, what we should be focusing on as a movement are the ideas, the solutions, the because we have them. We one of our things that we do on this show is we offer solutions. A lot of the people and frankly you represent that as well, because one of those solutions is working politically to do things and all of that. But
you're one of the few reasons that I'm still like fighting to stay a part of the LP and like fighting to help make it better because your leadership in that regard is inspiring. So
well, I certainly appreciate that. A lot of other people do not feel that way.
I don't give a shit about what they feel. I'm telling you what I feel. And
I told you it's an emotional age. You just got to stop giving a fuck about how people feel and just move.
I don't because I've got, as I said before, I've got weaponized autism, and I put it to good use.
That's what I'm going to start telling my wife now. Don't make me arm this autism at you.
Yeah, don't make me pull the pin.
Right on.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
To kind of shift again, and one of the things that I'd like to dig a little deeper, you touched on it earlier, that I'd like to dig a little deeper into. One of the things that we do as a show is we don't just focus on like politics and anti-politics and all that. We also talk about spirituality.
Yep.
And I'm very moved by your understanding of faith. And I want to be clear, I am not a Christian. I have deep faith, but I practice a form of deism mixed with Afro-Caribbean, like voodoo and Santeria. So I have a weird belief system, but I find a lot of joy. And we've had several Christians on our show. And, between my brother-in-law, who is a Seventh-day Adventist minister, and Mark Kreslins, who's an anarchist and a secessionist, who we've had on as well. We've covered Christianity pretty thoroughly, but I want to know, how does your faith in further explanation inform your beliefs and your actions and your activism?
Oh, that gets really, really complicated. And again, like Ed mentioned earlier, my faith informs the way I look at other human beings because from my view, and I think this is the view of a lot of faiths, so they will word it differently, is that there's a divine, there's an essence of the divine in every person. And in Christianity, it's called the image of God, that every single person is an image bearer. Mm-hmm. And if you are willing to just completely trash or deface somebody, you really are like shitting on an image bearer of God. And I try to keep that in mind. And that's also the reason why a lot of libertarians get triggered by this. This is not a political position. It's a religious position that I'm a pacifist, because I cannot imagine destroying an image bearer. And since I have faith in an afterlife, I don't value my life to that extent that I would destroy an image bearer of God. So that is what informs that. But even in the whole idea of non-aggression, it's the same thing. Will I aggress against an image bearer of God? No, I would not. So that is what really, really tries to inform my worldview, and also in the way that I am always open to reconciliation, because I believe that that is the way, in whatever faith it might be, that is the higher nature of all men, and that we need to be appealing to our higher nature, because it's really easy to appeal to the lower nature. And if we would all be quick to reconcile when there is genuine repentance, if somebody's been wronged, then I think the world would be a whole lot of a better place. And I don't try to claim that that's exclusive to Christianity. I mean, that's where I found it. I used to be like all of this is the only way type thing. Listen, I leave it to God to sort everything out. I have enough to work on in my own life that I don't need take on anyone else as an improvement project.
Sure.
So, but yeah, as it's become more and more obvious in my streams, it's funny, ever since I left church, my faith has become more part of my life.
Interesting.
I haven't been to church in years now, and I probably delve into trying to apply biblical principles now more than I ever did, because the church, there's a lot of hypocrisy, like there is in anything. But I came from a mega church in Florida. I came out of the Calvary Chapel movement, and then it turns out that was the biggest church in Florida, and the pastor, turns out, he was banging all these women and maybe diddling a 12-year-old. So, no bueno. And I just completely lost faith. And they were telling me, even though I was in an abusive marriage, that I couldn't get divorced because and you can't get mental health because you should just be able to pray the depression away. So, I'd been abused by the church a lot, but it just drew me closer to what I think is an authentic Christian faith rather than church.
Sure. Yeah, and I think all religion, regardless of what denomination or what particular kind of religion, gets to where you're at, it really is a relationship with God. It really is between you and God, and you work that shit out. One of the things that I like about voodoo is when asked, what if you're wrong and you're actually worshiping the devil and all that, a voodoo practitioner will tell you, God's a good guy, we'll work something out. And I really think that that's the case. If we're dealing with a just God, then he's going to know your heart. He's going to know that, let's say I'm completely wrong and the Catholics like Chad are completely right. And what I'm doing is evil and bad and all that kind of stuff. I don't hurt people. I don't take their stuff. And I'm good to people. I try very hard to give. I volunteer. I give to charity. I work for charity. I do a lot. And God knows that. And if he would damn me for, because I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen the instruction manual be as clear as mud like the Bible or the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita or any other religious text. It is not clear. And so if God wanted these exact things to be followed, he probably ought to have somebody write it out exactly how we wanted it. Otherwise, he's going to have to give me some leeway. And so I really like, frankly, talking to Christians. And a lot of that reason is because a lot of people that's
because we're the best.
No, it's because you tend to practice the most. There's a lot of people, and there's people like myself that aren't Christian, that are hardcore and do what we do. But most people are just kind of playing at religion, and Christians practice religion. And I like hearing that.
Well, when you're fed with all kind of guilt all the time,
Catholic guilt.
You feel like you have to practice a lot.
I grew up Catholic, and I still haven't gotten rid of the guilt.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like it's like I got to practice more. So I'm just joking. I know that's not what you mean by practice, but
yeah, I know.
But
yeah,
it's.
But no, I grew up, but I barely escaped having to go to Catholic school. My brher and sister did.
Yeah, no, I went for 13 years, kindergarten through 12th grade. So I wanted to. What'd you say, Nico?
I don't know. I only had one under my belt, so I didn't suffer as much as you. So.
Well, on my father's side, they're Italian from Italy, like hardcore Italian Catholics.
Man.
You have not, man. Oh, Lord, have mercy. There were more pictures of the Virgin
motherland.
Mary in that house than any member of the family.
Great.
Well, I wanted to before we get to the end of this thing. I wanted to touch on, because this has been a thing for me too. Maybe it's the fellow autists that deal with this more than others. But from the mental health standpoint, because I know, like, with leaving your job, because I know that was wearing on you. But then you leave that, and out of the frying pan into the fire, all this stuff happens. And I know this has taken a toll on you, an emotional and mental, psychological toll. Because there are a lot of people saying really awful things about you. And I really, I have watched this thing unfold, and there's been no one that I have watched as this has gone on who has been more principled in just trying to uncover what's really going on and really being curious and intellectually curious to try to find out what's going on. And then you've also been being assaulted, verbally. Right. For that.
Well, that is what assault is.
Yeah.
But normally it's threatening verbiage. So, you're using it a bit loosely, but people think assault means physical contact. It doesn't. That's battery. Yeah. That's my legal side coming out. But
right. So what, how are you doing? And what's the, what do you see as like a way for people who deal with that sort of thing to, like, I know you talked about how you've kind of uncovered some things that have helped you. What do you think is some stuff that people should know maybe about that?
Oh boy. Yeah, no, there's quite some vicious things. And just in my perspective, just from my life, and this could be totally incorrect. And since, I'm in a room with all other men, with men, and I'm the only woman here, I do see, just from observation, you can agree or not, that outspoken women get attacked in a much more personal, vicious way than outspoken men do. For sure. It's really, really barbed. So and a lot of people criticize me for doing this, but in what I consider my more intimate spaces, I just block the fuck out of people. I don't need that. Because like on my personal wall, I share a lot. And there's an element of trust there. So even though I know I can't be intimate friends with 5,000 people, but the minute I find somebody I can't trust, they're gone. They're blocked. And I don't care what people think about that, because there are other avenues. It's not an echo chamber, because an echo chamber would mean I was like living in my computer and never met people in real life. But what it is curating my spaces. I wouldn't invite somebody into my living room that was going to call me a cunt, bitch, whore. Why would I put that on my wall? They can do that. And I'm going to encounter it eventually when I go to a convention where it's not a space I control. I do go to those spaces. They could say what they want. And the funny thing is, on my live
stream, they don't do it to your face, though.
I know. Isn't that so funny? People say to me, why is your phone number public? Oh my God, you must be. No, I've never gotten a nasty phone. Watch, now that I say that, I will. Right. But really, most people are freaking cowards. They really are. But on my live streams, funny enough, as you've seen, I don't block people from that, because I can have a one-on-one human to human conversation with them when we're not behind a keyboard, though I will if someone got really abusive, but nobody's ever have. So, and in the certain political spaces, they can contact me as secretary, but I don't need to invite them into the intimate areas of my life. And too many libertarians see it as a point of pride. I never block anyone. I go, you're a dumbass or
Yeah.
you're the most completely unobjectionable person on the planet and quite
Right.
boring.
Yeah,
So,
which means you're
for
probably
sure.
not. What is that? If you're not taking flack, you're not over the target.
Yeah.
sort of thing. You know, it's
Yeah.
I'm
but-
not, no lie. Like I don't want to like put people on blast, so I wouldn't like share publicly. Like, but I would show you my block list on Facebook. I probably got 500 people on that thing. And, but you want to know what? I've had some of those people reach out to me through email or whatever and say, hey, a year ago, I was a real dick. Can we start again? And I always say, yes.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
important.
No, that's
For
freedom
sure.
of association is a thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to. You don't owe people time and space
No.
in your head or in your conversations. Like if
Right.
especially if they're abusive, that's ridiculous.
I'm always willing to reconcile.
Mhm.
But I don't, there's no badge of honor in keeping those people in your life. But
Right.
what the problem is I have friends and they're very, very well meaning who will then send me screenshots of all this nasty shit that I've blocked from my page. And I'm like, I really don't want to know.
Block
If
it
they're
from
That's why they're
threatening me,
blocked.
yeah, if it's a threat, if there's something for my safety that I need to know,
Right.
or there's some kind of weird plot where you really think that there's something I have to know. But if someone's
Right.
just being a dick, my husband even screenshots it. I'm like, I don't want to know. That's
Right.
why I have them blocked. If I wanted to see it, I
Shut the
wouldn't
door,
have
Wayne.
them blocked. Yes, exactly. He's stopped. He said stopped, and he
Okay,
needs to
okay.
learn to block people.
Right.
So
But yeah, that's what I've done to be. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to cope. You can only be told you're a piece of shit so often.
Yeah.
for sure.
No, it's hard to not internalize some of that stuff because you do. I've found that like when that sort of stuff gets, even though I know I'm well-meaning and I'm doing everything I can to be as open and kind and everything, that stuff still lands to a certain degree. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's sometimes it's death by 1,000 cuts, and so you
Yeah.
have to try to eliminate some of those cuts as much as you can. But to say that you're completely immune to it. For me, anyway, I'd be lying if I told you I was completely immune to it because it does impact me.
Yeah.
And so I have to do the same thing you do and just like eliminate that from my sight.
Here's the worst thing to me is when somebody you actually had a relationship with, they weren't just like a quote unquote Facebook friend, you know,
Right.
you've maybe met them in person, you've had all kinds of conversations, and then you're just, trotting along in your life, and then you see them in a group like shitting on you. And you're like, listen, you can criticize me. My friends criticize, but at least talk to me first. Don't let me be blindsided by seeing it in some other conversation. And when I see that happen, I don't turn around and immediately put them on blast. I go to their PMs and I talk to them about it and go, what the hell? But if you're actually friends with somebody, and again, not just Facebook acquaintances, but you actually have some kind of relationship, if you've got beef with them, you should at least tell them first so that they're not hearing it from another party. Because this just happened the other day with a gal that I thought was like a close friend. And all of a sudden she's shitting on me all over the place, never bothered to come to me personally. And coming to me personally doesn't mean, oh, we'll just keep it private and you can't publicly criticize me, but at least I know it's coming. And at least you've heard out my side and gave me the opportunity to try to persuade you otherwise.
Or at least agree to disagree.
Person.
Sure. Yeah, and I want to back up to what you talked about a moment ago. I have noticed that women are certainly treated much more nastily, I guess is the best way to put it, than men are. I've seen it. And often, I remember the first libertarian thing we went to, like official meeting here in Indiana, and this has been probably 2017. But my wife and I went to it. The Libertarian Party did not give a shit that the only female, which was my wife, in the room had to leave the room because I was there on an official capacity for Adam, and my wife had my little girl, and they were holding it in a room that served alcohol, and they couldn't have who goes everywhere with us. And I got to give a shout out to my little girl, Anya, who still worships the ground you walk on. I'm telling you what, she loves you. And you're
I like the lady with the pink hair.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
A lot of hit amongst that set.
Yeah, well, she loves you. She loves you, and she loves Josh.
Well, she was like 9 in the New Orleans convention. 8. Yeah.
But so
she was still a delegate,
right? But we had her with us, so she couldn't be in the room. So they went to a room with a conference table to play with my little girl, and all of the men sat in a cigar-filled room, and so they don't think about women, I think, as part of the club. And I think that's the reason often that you are victimized. And I think that it's wrong for a variety of reasons beyond the fact that you're female. I don't see gender really. I mean, obviously there are differences. Yeah. But I really think that that there is a problem, and it's something that, as a party, the Libertarian Party needs to focus on and try to help. Is stop doing that stupid shit.
Yeah, it's okay to see gender. You just don't have to say like, "Wow, you're smart for a girl," or some shit like that. Like that's just
right.
Well, I like to call it soft sexism because I don't think a lot of it is intentional. Mm-hmm. For instance, like I would bring up. And God bless Starchild, he still doesn't agree with me. He thought that the LNC should save money by having our LNC meetings in the private homes of people in these various cities. And I said, then you're going to guarantee that no members from those cities that don't know these people are going to show up, because women on their own, if they're alone, are not going to go to the private home of somebody they don't know. They're just not, especially to a meeting that could last into the evening. They're not going to do that. And I'm sorry, Starchild, that you can't understand that perspective, particularly, and this isn't to rag on him because I like all mad respect for him, but he's a sex worker that's used to going to strangers' houses and doing all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. But the average woman is not going to do that. So yeah, for the sake of saving money, you've just really made sure that single women aren't going to go to these meetings. And he still finds this completely unfathomable and me to be completely unreasonable for saying that. That's the kind of soft sexism that exists.
That's a clear like power dynamic issue.
He not understand that there's a different viewpoint and different thought process and different emotions behind girls. Like, is that too hard concept to like conceptualize?
and what's funny is that even goes into the whole Ben Shapiro statistics things, because it's funny. Men are statistically more likely to be assaulted on the street, but women fear it more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably true.
Well, if you think about it, like if I get assaulted on the street, I'm probably from just a physical power dynamic standpoint, I'm in a better position to defend myself just from a size and stature standpoint. You know, a 5'2" girl, like you don't know whose house you're going to. You know what I mean? Like it's a whole different ball game. 5'2" and you weigh like 110 or something like that, and the guy's 6'3" and he weighs 240. However well-meaning you may think that they may be, that's just intimidating, and it's not a situation I can totally understand. Just being like, you know what, I'm going to, because I have this, not even from like a being afraid of being harmed physically or anything like that, but like I try to avoid doing anything when I'm away from my wife with like another woman where it's just going to be the two of us. There's always got to be somebody else there.
Yeah, it's your own boundaries, you know.
Yeah, it just makes more sense.
Some people used to think I was crazy when I was newly single, that the route I always chose to go home was one where I know I would be making a turn that I would notice if somebody was behind me, because it wasn't a populated road, and I would always take that way home. And if there was someone behind me, I wouldn't go home. I'd just drive around the neighborhood until they weren't behind me anymore. And a lot of men, that's completely unfathomable. Now, I'm sure, but I also know for men, when they go into a restaurant, they sit in a place where they can see the door. That wouldn't occur to me in a million years. But my husband, now I know where we go. He wants to sit where he can see who's coming in the door.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's some like sexism working for women too in some of those statistics, because I think that our culture has taught us that men make more money, so they're going to be the better victim for a criminal. I think that works in the favor of women sometimes as well. But to think that there's not a a true difference is just silly.
Oh, and there is female privilege as well, which women don't like to talk about. I can tell you for a fact, and I still feel bad about it, but it's real. When I won my Region 1 election, I was only in the party for a year and a half, and I know damn well, I know this, and this sucks for me to know it, and it sucks for the person I be, that one of the reasons I won is because I was a woman, younger, and the guy I was running against was an old white man. I know that for a fact, and he still resents me to this day. Now, obviously, I couldn't do anything about it, but I don't blame him either. It felt sucky for me to know that. You want to win on your own merits. There is such thing as female privilege.
Right, but you've earned your shit now.
Yeah, but then I was brand new. I really was brand new, and he was deeply resentful, and I don't blame him for being so.
Okay, I get that, but you have paid for that shit. I've seen it. And again, one of the things that I just find, and maybe it's just because it's me, but among the people that are in the party, you were one of those people. I went, oh, that's one of the good ones. Oh, I want to know her. I want to get to know her. She's cool. And you were like that. Josh was like that. There were a few people down the road that I was like, oh, I want to get to know this person because they're interesting and they have ideas, because I like to think and I like people that have ideas and want to put those ideas forward. And you were one of those people. So again, you've earned your shit, Caryn Ann, and that's just where it is. And so I'd like to see you succeed. And, I've made it very clear to just about everybody that I'm about done with the LP.
No.
Yeah. I'm trying, Caryn Ann. I'm trying to keep him.
At least make it to Reno to see what we can do.
But if anyone can get me to stay, it will be you. It will be people like you.
The fuck am I? Sorry, Chad. Liver?
Yes, Chad, you're chopped liver. Hey, look at it this way.
I beg to everybody, listen, I get you're discouraged now, but let's see what we can do in Reno, because just imagine if the right, and I know everyone's always saying, if you just vote harder, right? I know you're laughing at me down there, Nico. I know it. But if we had the right messaging team, even if it was just for 2 years, can you imagine the way we could shake up this country?
I can. And that's why I think shit like what's going on right now is going on right now. Because if people like yourself, people like Josh, people like Adam, like people like, and not to just,
Ken Molman, who's
Ken Molman's a badass.
Yeah. If people like you guys get the reins, no, and the state knows that. One of the things I've said is that, and I still believe this, if I do remain involved in the LP, I will still believe this. We will never get to freedom through a ballot box. It will never happen. Rothbard was right. We only get there when the vast majority of people have realized the illusions, and I'm not quoting, this is just a paraphrase, but realize the illusions of the state and deny it. That's the only way we're going to get there. But I do think that the LP, and we'll always support the LP to the extent that they are definitely educating people. But if people like you get a hold of those reins, it will hurt the state.
I want to hurt the state. Like, people, that's what listen, I live for that shit.
I know. that's my point.
Well, I've always described this as like a big boss fight with where we have like, you have the LP is like the I don't know, like the soldier with the armor that's, fighting right there in front, like doing the old standard, I'm going to march in front and I'm going to do the things the way that you're supposed to do them through the ballot box and all this stuff. And then you have like your activists and you have all these different things, your agorists, but we're all doing our own thing to try to slay that boss.
Sure.
And we need every one of those things. Like no one of those things can claim that it is the only way or that it will be the exclusive path to victory. I think everybody doing what they are passionate about and what they think is the best and most effective way to use their talents is the way that you take that big boss down. And I wanted to say this, like in our Hotep Nation chat last night when the whole thing was going on, I was at dinner with a client and a coworker. So I caught like the first 30 minutes, and then I think I had to watch the rest on YouTube after we got done. But shout out to Hilawe. He was saying he's like, hey, what's going on with this thing? I'm just starting to catch up with it. And then he watched the whole thing, and then he was like giving me play by play of like what was going on and everything. And so he said something about let's see what he said. He said something about Bishop Hinchman, and then he said it said, and that got Secretary Harlos combative. And I was like, Caryn Ann is our guest tomorrow. She's a beast. And he's like, so he said, oh my God, awesome. She's the star after this conference call. So anyway, I just wanted to say, like, people who I didn't even know were like watching.
I lost my shit last night, man.
They were cheering for you. So it's, I think that it's making, even for people who aren't, members or delegates or anything like that, it's having an impact outside of that. They're seeing that there are people who are principled and who are fighting for what's right. So
I had this notebook, Rose, because when I'm listening to the other debaters, I'm writing down my points so I don't forget.
Right.
It took that shit almost got thrown across the room. I was so pissed off, man. Oh, it was bad.
Well, there's a lot of dirty stuff. Like the fact that there were people who were actually saying, I don't care if this is right or not. I don't like those people, so get rid of them. It's like, whoa. So like that shoe doesn't, and this is what I always try to explain to people, Republicans and Democrats. It's like, if you think that it's okay to give George Bush that power, then you can't complain when Obama seizes it. And then the Obama people, when they give him power, can't complain when Trump uses it. And the Trump people can't complain when Biden uses it. It's eventually you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Yeah. So your sword better be righteousness and not this other petty bullshit.
It's why I turned my camera off, because some of the comments I knew I don't control my face very well, that I just like, no, I'll probably be getting scolded before the meeting even like actually starts. So right. I was like, oh, oof. Yeah. And I was like bitching to my husband the whole time because, that was something. But I wanted to, on the whole hurting the state thing or getting the message out thing, here's the value of the political party. I was only a line holder candidate. If anyone doesn't know what that is, it's somebody who just, in a state with great ballot access like Colorado, it doesn't cost us anything. You just put you get the nomination at convention, you just put your name down. You don't have to do a damn thing. But you still get all the questionnaires. So I ran as a line holder. I didn't have to do anything, but I answered every single questionnaire. So I got free space in every single paper, right along with the respectable candidates, to just say all this anti-statist shit. And that is the value of a political party, because you guys, not any of you, just any of the non-political people, you could write that to the Denver Post all you want. It ain't going to get printed, but because I'm a candidate, it got printed right there. And that is a huge value right there. And that is something we can weaponize. And you do sometimes get on the debate stage. And I loved when Lily Tang Williams, who was running for Senate here, she said, forget putting body cams on police. We need to put body cams on politicians. And I thought that was freaking awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that the stage that is provided by the state in the election cycle is definitely something we should take. I tried. A former LNC member made sure I wasn't on that, on the ballot, because what happened was that I was running for coroner because I have a degree in funeral service, and I was running for coroner here in my county, and she was the county chair as well as a member of the LNC. I'm not going to name a name, but she decided to volunteer to take my paperwork in because I don't live in the county seat, and it never made it. Yeah. And she opposed me specifically. She was one of those people standing up back in the day. So one of the problems that the LP needs to get, I agree that, we shouldn't just line up I didn't, I'm not going to line up just because somebody's got an L next to their name and vote for them. That's not how I work. That's never going to be how I work. But we need to protect our own. As much as I disagree with minarchists about this, that, or the other thing, they have my support because they want to weaken the government. And
I hope they weaken it enough for us to kill it.
Exactly. That's right. It's like that jar where it's like, yeah, but I loosened it for you.
Yeah, right. No, man, go ahead, weaken it, because I'm ready back here. Like, yeah,
sure.
Hey, don't pay attention to what's behind my back. Go ahead.
Right.
Paralyze it. And you just go in for the.
You're cool. Go on.
Do what you gotta do, because they're going. Yeah. So, Caryn Ann, as we wrap up, is there anything you want to particularly plug? Down below, your Twitter is linked and your YouTube is linked.
That's cool with me. I'm not a big plugger, I figure people, find what they'd like to. I do encourage people to get involved in the LP, despite all of this, because I do want to take over the LP for libertarian principles, because the vehicle is so valuable. I mean, you can get on a national stage and just blow people's minds. And that's my goal. Like, these people who want me off the LNC, they're all, we're going to vote you out in Reno. And I'm like, don't promise me for a good time. Don't threaten me with a good time. Because do you know how much I volunteer 40 hours a week to the LNC. And when I was making money, like, I used to be pretty, like, you go through feast and famine. And when I was in my feast phase, I spent $10,000 to $15,000 out of my own money every year. And my poor husband, like, sometimes I don't know why he puts up with it. But the thing is, I say to these people, see, they don't know me. If they stop for a second, I think they would probably say, we probably should keep her there because it'll keep her at least busy in something that more of the world doesn't see. Because the minute I'm not on the LNC, my ass is going to be running for every public office I can. And I am bound and determined to embarrass the fuck out of all you moderates, and I can do it. And I hope my ass gets on Kennedy one day, and then I'm really going to embarrass the fuck out of you. So if you know what's good for you, maybe you want to kind of keep me tied up in the LNC where only you guys get to see me. Because if you think getting me off the LNC is going to silence me or give me less power, and LNC libertarian power is like this so stupid.
Well, that's what I was to the Game of Thrones thing. I was like, it's almost like they're just LARPing as Game of Thrones characters.
Yeah,
because it's not even there's not even like a ring of power. Like, it's a ring of like powerlessness. To a certain extent.
Where can I go
like
and
that's going to
sabotage
neutralize
this
me?
so that I can make
40 hours of my time.
Right.
You really want that? It's a case of be careful what you ask for.
Right. So
because I ain't going nowhere, bitches.
My girl.
So
what were you saying, Nico?
Oh no, I was just gonna ask where could I sabotage this so I could just see her blow up everything with her arm back. Like, that's, you said in Reno. Like, I most definitely am interested in going to different conventions and different things and having different experiences and viewing the political party from not so black suit and black tie, a little loose. But I would just need the experience to like really delve into it. Other than books, books are great and all, but books don't talk back. So it's like
libertarian conventions, forget the politics. They're just fun.
Yeah,
they're fun on their own, and it's fun just to people watch. Like, even if you're not going to do the politics thing, just to watch the theater of it. Like, for sure. And the different kinds of people, and Star Child going up with his fairy wings and his Daisy Dukes. I mean, there's very little. You can't pay for that shit. It's the only thing more entertaining than a homeowners association battle, So it's worth going, even if you're not part of the party, just for the good time. Though I have a good time doing it. The whole thing. Because what I still surprised people with last night who hadn't watched the LNC in a while is that during these couple years where they haven't been paying attention, Mama got really good at parliamentary procedure. And all of a sudden I was ninjaing them out, because normally it's the suits, it's the moderates who had mastered that. But I'm about to get my certification. So now I know how to use their weapons.
Yeah. That's what's dangerous, right? Yeah, because that's what's when you watch Star Child go up with his Daisy Dukes and his fairy wings on, but then he like delivers First of all, he announces it. He announces his motion perfectly, and then delivers this like scathing yet eloquent and perfectly worded motion, or just a statement that he wants to a resolution or something like that he wants to put forth. That's what's really fun to watch.
People look at him and they discount him. He's one of the most brilliant people I know, and he's really one of the most gifted writers that I know.
Yep, absolutely. No, I had him help me write something that I wrote.
He's a big
like a poem.
brain.
Yep.
Oh my God.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Caryn Ann, thank you very much for coming on. This has been a very good, entertaining, and informative conversation. And, know that you have lots of people, and I know you know this already, but just add, at least Chad and I, possibly Nico, to your support.
I got my eye on Nico. That's just,
Hey,
hey, dude, this guy.
I'm going to get him linked up in Illinois. Yeah, he's 22. He's
wait.
Got a little budding superstar here.
Dusty. I'm going to be 23.
Yeah, that's right. Father's Day, you turned 23.
Right.
Look.
And he's going to do it at my house, dude. He's coming with the hookah, and man, we're going to get him fucked up this weekend. I'm telling you what.
Video or it didn't happen.
Right, well, he's already talking about videoing it for Chad. But
pause.
Hey, you big sexy. But
OnlyFans, man, monetize that shit.
Right. But no, you have lots of support out here. Make sure you always ingest that for all of these shitheads that are talking shit,
right?
There's probably 10 of us out there going, get them, just fucking get them, over and over and over again.
Hold the feet to the fire.
You
right.
represent us.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Totally appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And
absolutely.
You guys have anything else you'd like to say?
I love the lava girl, pink hair. That shit is cold. I have to say that.
Yeah.
That's one. Number two, you put me on a lot of game. This is real dope. Like, I'm talking to somebody who's a secretary in the LP party. I mean, granted, Marcus and Chad got pull and connect and all that, but like, this is real dope. And I know for a fact you have hella pull. I can't wait to visit Colorado, see what new things you put out there. And but yeah, no, thank you very much for this. Couldn't be blessed otherwise for any other guest on today. And just keep doing you. Just light fires on these motherfuckers and do you.
It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, and I just want to tell everybody to not forget, if you haven't already, to like, to share, and subscribe, and to go to our Patreon and throw some ducats at us. At the $5 level, you get to join the Anarch chat, where you join the Telegram, and you get Daryl's emergency alerts when guns go on sale or ammo or anything like that, and all the other stuff. Tim got his thing. I'm not gonna out anybody, but. Anyway, and then also if you have some, if you want to buy some of the gear like what Marcus has behind him, or what Nico has behind him, and that shirt that Marcus has on. Damn, Marcus, you can't get up. Go to the Teespring store.
Oh, that's
Marcus
funny.
has designed all kinds of awesome shirts. But no, Caryn Ann, thank you very much. This was great, and watching all this stuff unfold. And then knowing that you were coming on our show, I was like, golly, I don't know if she's going to have any energy left. But then here you are, bringing the heat still. So we appreciate it very, very much, because I know you've been grinding heavy on this. So,
all right, you guys have an awesome, awesome night.
You too,
Thanks
Caryn
again.
Ann. Take care.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Much love. Stay free.
Peace. Oh, shit, let me hit the thing.
Need to hit the outro.
I was too busy blowing kisses. I forgot. All right, everybody, I'm about to hit it. Y'all ready?
Stay
Say
free.
it, Marcus.